Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about summer knits. Even though summer isn't in full motion, I thought if I don't get started thinking and talking about summer knits now, I won't be able to finish them for or during summer. So I am shifting into a summer knits mindset now, and that's going to be my focus going forward. So I thought I'd share with you both what I consider must-haves for summer and what I try to consider when choosing my summer knits, some of my quite ambitious plans for summer knits this year, and of course also my wants, the projects that I don't have the yarn or the time for, but that definitely still deserve an honorable mention. So that's what I thought I'd share with you today, and I thought I could start with what I consider like must-haves, or the pattern categories I really want to have projects for going into summer. And for me that is sweaters, super thin sweaters, like super thin sweaters, and also perhaps chunkier sweaters, but then in plant fibers, and just different sweaters than like wool sweaters, but preferably thin. All of these I want them to be in as thin a gauge as possible, but sweaters definitely top the list. Those are my favorite things to knit and my most worn knits, so of course I need some of those for summer as well. And then of course we have tees and camisoles. I have found in the later years that out of those two I prefer knitting camisoles the most, but the tees are maybe the ones that gets the most use, so I try to have a good mix between the two, both so I get things I really love knitting on. And to be fair, I do use the camisoles as well, just not as much as I use the tees, because the tees are also easier to use in winter and on colder summer days, but I like to have both of those. And then I also really want to knit a cardigan. I just love cardigans lately. This last year I've been in love with cardigans, so I just always want to have a planned cardigan, and that's been really hard with summer knits because I haven't really found a cardigan that really speaks to me with what I envision a summer cardigan being like, without any mohair and fingering. I would want it to be fingering weight. I would want it to have some lace detailing, and I've found some, but the ones I've found I haven't really loved the style on and etc. So I don't know, I have found one that is with silk mohair and a bit chunkier than I would want, but that really, when I looked at it, I could really envision myself knitting it and wearing it during summer. So it's still on my list, but I'm very undecided. But those are some of the things I look at as like must-haves in my summer wardrobe. And of course I also consider what yarns to use. I really heavily gravitate towards fingering weight yarn. For me it's more about the weight of the yarn than really the fibers, because I prefer knitting with wool year round. Maybe I do a mix of wool and cotton during summer, but I do mostly knit with wool. But I do not knit that much with like DK weight yarn or anything. It's mostly only fingering weight, so that's also something I really consider. And I try to have all of my projects be without mohair, because knitting with mohair on warm summer days, just they don't mix well for me. So those are some of the things I think about as must-haves for summer, and the things I think about when choosing the patterns I want to knit in summer and what patterns I want in my summer wardrobe. But that said, I think we can move into my plans, and I do have quite a lot of plans this summer. Summer isn't really that long here either, so I think this might be a bit ambitious, but I have found all the yarn, or one skein per project, for all of the projects that I have planned out, with yarn and everything there fully planned out basically. And that looks like this, and I am really happy with with like my summer, what it looks like, my summer plan project, the colors of it all. I have of course some favorite when it comes to this, and if I had to choose one, I definitely have to say this color like embodies everything summer to me. It is so bright that it's almost uncomfortable to look at, and it's soft, it's thin, it's bright, it's just this. If summer was yarn, it would be this. So I'm really excited to have that as part of my summer plans. But I think with my summer plans we'll just have to start at the top of the list and work our way down. And at the top of my list I have the 9 p.m. tank, and that is by Tiffknit, and Tiffknit is a designer. I have a lot of her projects on my wish list when it comes to things I want to knit, but I haven't knit a single one of her patterns before, and that is true for a lot of these projects I want to knit this summer. I've tried to branch out because with a lot of my winter and fall and spring knits I do tend to go back to the same designer again and again and again, but I've tried this summer to branch out a bit more, and I'm really excited to try out a lot of new designer, and Tiffknit is one of them with her 9 p.m. tank, and I'm going to be knitting it with this yarn. I have wound it up, so I'm struggling a bit to remember the yarn, but I think it's Sweet Sparrow's yarn. It is superwash merino with a bit of nylon in this really pretty color. I really like this color, and I think this yarn, the feel of it and how thin it is and the color, I think everything is going with it is going to make a perfect summer tee. And I have had the 9 p.m. tank on my wish list for really long because I have loved all of Tiffknit's creations, and I have also only heard good things about the 9 p.m. tank. It has so good reviews, and I've heard it's really easy to customize it exactly to your body, so I've wanted to make it for so long, but I haven't found the yarn I want to use for it because it is a tank I really like the look of, so I wanted to have a yarn to like do justice, but finally I've found what I think is going to make this tank justice. So now I am so excited to knit it. I think it's going to have a few new to me techniques, not that I've never done them before, but just in the way the construction of the tank is, I think that's going to be new to me, so I am really excited to try that. That is one of my favorite things with trying new designers, that they write their patterns a bit differently and the way they use their techniques are just a bit different. So I really like to try out different designers, and I really want to be better at that this year, to try out different designers instead of just going back to the same like 3. But that is the first project on my list, the 9 p.m. tank. And then the next one is also by a designer that is new to me, and that is the square neck cami, or the square neck camisole. That's by Garnogslikt. She's a Norwegian designer, which is also really fun, and she designs also a lot of really nice pieces, and I want to knit basically everything she makes, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But especially the square neck cami is something I look at really frequently. It pops up in my feed, or I go and look at it, and I love the look of it. I do really love ribbing, and there is something about ribbing in camisoles that I think is so good looking, and ribbing in really thin yarn, I just really like the look of that. So I'm really excited to make that. I have been a bit unsure about the pattern choice because I've seen so many nice versions, but I did take some of the yarn I have in my stash that I was considering, and I just held it up to myself, and this was the color where my eyes kept going back, and this is the Støvet Petroleumsblue by Knitting for Olive, so Dusty Petroleum's Blue. I'm not surprised, this was the only blue color I held up, and I am a sucker for blue. Blue is my favorite color. I gravitate towards blue a lot, so I'm not surprised that this is the color we ended up with, and I think that's going to be pretty because it is dusty. The dusty colorways that the Knitting for Olive has are a bit lighter, so I think it's going to be light enough for the ribbing to really be able to shine through and be like a statement. If it was too dark, I was a bit afraid that the ribbing wasn't going to be as noticeable, but I think with this yarn that's going to work out perfectly. I'm also really excited to make a square neck top. I really like square necks. I think those are the necks I think look the best, and I don't have anything at all in my knitted wardrobe that is a square neck, I think. So this is a piece I am super excited for, and definitely something that's going to be prioritized, both because it's a Norwegian designer, which I think is fun. I love the neckline, I love ribbing. It's a new designer to me. There's just a lot of things I'm really excited about. Also love Knitting for Olive. This again is 100% merino wool, but as I think I said, the most important thing to me when I choose yarn is how thick it is, and merino, Knitting for Olive's merino is super thin, as you can see, so I think I'm going to be good with this for summer. And I also don't live in a place where we have super warm summers, so I think thin merino is going to be perfect for the summer weather we have. So that's another project I am super excited about. My problem with all of these really ambitious plans for what I'm going to have the time to do this summer is that I love every single piece, and I really want to love every single piece, so it's going to be so hard to try to prioritize what to do and where to start, because I am so excited about all of them. I can't even like put into words how excited I am about these, and that is such a good place to be, where you're so excited about your knitting, but it also makes prioritizing really hard. But my next project is the Naked Tee. I think it's called the Naked Tee, even though it is like a blouse. But it's by Nakedknit, and it's this sweater that's knit on, I think the whole thing is knit on 2.5mm needles, and the edges look kind of like raw to me. But this is another project that has been on my radar for really long. I really like the look of it, and it looks kind of like an undergarment that could be really nice to layer in winter, but also like just a nice really thin sweater for summer. As I said, it's knit on 2.5mm needles, so I think if I end up making this this summer, it might be my most time-consuming garment, because a whole sweater on 2.5mm needles is going to take its time. But I am really excited about it, and I have this yarn. This is also wound up, and when I wind up yarn, my fiance goes behind me and he picks up all the labels and throws them away before I can gather them up. So can't remember what this is called either, but I think the color name is something like Cactus Blossom, and it is this really pretty yarn with like a lot of white as the base, and then a lot of colors, like the whole rainbow scattered through, which I'm really excited about. I think that could look really good as the yarn for the Naked Tee. I only have this skein, but I think this is 150 grams, and the yarn is really thin, so I have a lot of meters even though it's just one skein, so I think that's going to be enough for the Naked Tee because the gauge is so small. But yeah, I probably have to look a bit more into that, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to work out, and this is another project I'm really excited about. I am really excited about my knitting plans because I feel like I have a good mix between like new designers I haven't knit a lot from. I have knit one piece from Nakedknit before, but not more than that, and multiple new designers and so much hand-dyed yarn. I don't knit a lot with hand-dyed yarn. I think I have knit with hand-dyed yarn like once before, and just with my summer knitting plans I have at least 3 projects I'm going to do with hand-dyed yarn. So I think this summer is just going to be really fun with lots of new yarn and knitting experiences, and I can't wait. But I'm going to be knitting the Nakedknit. I think that's going to be a good summer project, also on thin millimeters and just a really light project. I think it's going to be a lightweight project because it's knit on so thin needles, so I think that's going to be really good to knit on throughout summer, and it could be like my long-term summer project that's just in the background that I'm working a little bit on here and there. I don't think that could be my only project at the time, because I think I would go a bit mad only knitting on 2.5mm needles, but definitely a project I want to get to. And then the next project on my list is also a sweater, but with a much bigger gauge, and that's also something I would ideally knit twice this summer, because it's the Blouse No. 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and this is also something I wanted for really long, and I've looked in my stash for so long to find yarn for it, and I finally decided to make it in this Drops Baby Merino, in this like old pink color, I think it is. I even did a gauge swatch, because Drops Baby Merino is originally meant to be knit on 3mm needles, and the Blouse No. 1 is knit on 5mm needles, I think. So I wanted to see what the fabric would look like with so big needles, and I really like the look of the fabric actually. It is a really loose, like airy fabric with this, but it's definitely not like too gapey, holy, bad looking. It looked good, just really like flowy. It would have a great drape to it, which I don't know how that would affect the construction, but I'm willing to take that risk. I think it would look good in this, and this is again 100% wool but fingering weight, or maybe you would call this sport weight, but when I knit this usually turns out to be fingering weight yarn. And let's see, I lost my train of thought a bit. I think since this is fingering weight yarn, I would be good with it being 100% wool. I am that with all the other projects as well, of course, but since this is going to be such a loose gauge, I think it would be really great for summer, because the air would be able to breeze through it. It would be really loose. It would be great. I imagine throwing it on over a bikini on the beach, just this being a really nice loose gauge sweater. So can't get this out of my mind, and I think it would be really nice. But just after I decided on making the Blouse No. 1 with this, I got this yarn, and this is Drops Cotton Merino in, again, a lovely color, this turquoise, and I love blue, so of course I think it's lovely. This is a color I can't stop looking at. It's in my shelf back here with the yarn for the other Blouse No. 1. This whole shelf is like my summer knitting shelf. But can't get this yarn out of my head. And this is actually DK weight, the Drops Cotton Merino. So the yarn weight and everything is much more similar to the yarn you're actually like supposed to knit the Blouse No. 1 with. So can't really get it out of my head to make a Blouse No. 1 with this one either. And this is actually cotton and merino. It's 50% cotton, 50% merino, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if I can see it here. It doesn't say on this label, but I think it's 50% cotton, 50% merino, and that is much closer to the fiber of the Blouse No. 1, the weight of the yarn with the Blouse No. 1. So I think maybe the construction would look more like it's supposed to, and the whole sweater would look more like it's supposed to with this yarn. And I also really like the fit of the blouse number 1 just in general, so I would not be opposed to having 2, and the 2 would also have a bit of a different use because they would be in different yarn, different color. They would probably feel and look different. So I'm not opposed to having 2. The problem is that I'm now super excited about both of these projects for the blouse number 1, and I can't decide where to start. If I'm going to start with this one because this is the most similar to the actual pattern, if I'm going to start with this one because this was here first, I don't know. I want to do them both. I'm also a bit worried about me getting like fatigued with the pattern and not wanting to knit it twice within one summer. But I want both of them this summer, so I'm struggling a bit with that. But please help me in the comments. Let me know which one you think I should start with. If you think it's okay to knit 2 of the same in the same summer, but which would you start with? I really don't know, can't make up my mind. I've been trying for quite long now, but I simply can't. Maybe I can knit them both at the same time to see really how that works. I do not know. I would love to hear your opinions on that, but that is it for the blouse number 1. Another project in here from My Favorite Things Knitwear. I do really love My Favorite Things Knitwear's style when it comes to summer knits, so I tend to gravitate towards her when it comes to summer knits. But another thing I have from her is that I really want to do the Camisole number 9 again. I did it last year in August, I think, which was a bit late to do a camisole here. It got too cold before I really got to wear it, but I made the Camisole number 9 in bright green last year, and this year I want to make it in black, both because black is easier to wear more of the time. I also think Camisole 9 is the type of camisole you could have more of because it is a really basic piece that you can get loads of wear out of, especially in black, so I really want that. And also the one I made last year I have a few fit issues with. It turned out to be a bit too tight, even though I made a gauge swatch, because my gauge swatch turned out to not be my actual gauge once I was working with the whole garment. So this year I'm trying to like redeem myself with the cami number 9, even though the other camisole I have used a lot. I just want one that fits a bit better and that is a bit easier to wear with different things, which black is. So really excited about that. I think also knitting with black is going to be better during summer because I knit with this black this winter as well. I think it was December last time I knit with this black, and I can't really recommend that, even though black feels more natural of a color in winter than in summer, because in summer you want like all the pops of color and everything is coming to life, so you want like bright colorful things, and in winter everything is darker, so you gravitate more towards the darker colors. At least that's how it is for me. But black is just not a great yarn to work with during winter. I had to use a headlamp the whole time I was working with that black yarn this winter, so I think it's going to be much better and more fun to work on it this summer, because in summer we actually have like daylight a lot longer and the sun is much brighter, so I can actually see my stitches. So I think that's going to be a better experience to do in the summer, and I am really excited for it. I have been thinking about this for almost a year now, so I can't wait to get started on that. I just have to get some other projects out of the way, and also I don't know if I can prioritize the cami number 9 over all of these other projects, since I have already made a camisole. I'm just really struggling with where and how to start with these projects, because I really want to make all of them. I'm obsessed with all of them, so it is really hard to choose, and I can't start on all of them at once because then none of them will be finished before summer is finished. So if you want to let me know where you would start, please feel free to do so, because I can't really figure it out myself. But another plan I have that is also maybe not traditional like summer knitting is that I do really want to use this Pickles extra fine merino to make the Elisabeth blouse. I have had this yarn for a little while now. I am absolutely obsessed with the color. This is again what I'm talking about, summer and pops of color. I am obsessed with pops of color in the summer. So I really want to knit with this during summer, but it is DK weight and 100% wool, so it is a bit warm for summer, but also we don't have like the warmest summers here, so I think I can get away with it. I did struggle a bit with this yarn to find the perfect project. I thought I was going to do a different project than the Elisabeth blouse, but then I gave myself some more time to think, and that again is back here in the shelf, and every time I looked at it I just gravitated more and more towards the Elisabeth blouse. So that is what this is going to be, and I think a red Elisabeth blouse is going to be so good. And another reason why I think the Elisabeth blouse is going to be good for summer is, and not just because that color is a pop of color, but I think since it is quite open here, you have quite a like deep opening, it shows all of the collarbones, it just gives me summer vibes. It is, I think you could get away with using it in fall and winter of course as well, but I think it could be really good for summer because it's not like a thick sweater, it is very open, it looks very like breathable, it has some positive ease. If not, I don't think I would use it like in the middle of the day in peak summer, but colder summer evenings or like late summer. I have lots of other plans for more like peak summer, so I think this would be like a late summer knit anyways, and I think that could be really nice. This could also be a really nice like transition piece from summer into fall because of the red. So I think that could be good because it's like a pop of color like summer, but it's also red like the leaves starting to turn. So I think this would be good for late summer. And I also am just obsessed with that plan, so I couldn't leave it out of my summer knitting plans. But that is the blouse, Elisabeth blouse, that is by Petiteknit, if I didn't mention. And then for my last plan, which I am the most excited about, and this is also my newest yarn, and I showed it a bit before. This is, I can't really remember exactly what the fiber is called, but I think it is merino and silk and alpaca. I think it's super soft. It is by Feberstik, is that what it's called? I got this at a local yarn festival. I got this at the yarn festival I was at this weekend, and I wasn't really supposed to get any yarn, and I was quite good at it, and I tried so hard not to get this yarn. I walked past it probably like 10 times, but I got pulled towards this yarn so hard I could not stop looking at it. Hello, have you seen this color? It's really hard to stop looking at it, and it is like, since it's hand-dyed yarn, it's very limited edition. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I just couldn't let it slip away, and it's also a really thin yarn with like ridiculous amount of meterage per skein. Here you can see how truly thin it is, and I think one skein is 1200 meters, so you could definitely get a lot out of this. I don't know exactly how I'm going to use this. I am torn between like double or triple stranding this yarn alone to make, for example, the poppy tee. I think the poppy tee would be a good tee with this, or if like double triple stranding this would just be too much. This is really bright. It is like almost painful to look at because it is so bright, but it could be double triple stranded. But I've also played with the idea of like having like white knitting for olive as the main thread, and then this as like a thread with it, to both calm the color down a bit with the white and to make the thread a bit thicker, and still to make the poppy tee. But if I pair these together, I would have a lot of these left over, so I would need to come up with more projects for them, which I'm not opposed to. I think as it is right now, this is the idea I'm the most into. I have to do some gauge swatches, not mainly to figure out the gauge, but to see how the colors play together and the yarn play together. But I think having these together is the idea I'm the most into. And then with the leftover yarn, which is going to be quite a lot, I think I would really want to do a cardigan of some sort with it. I think, but I need to find like the perfect cardigan for this. If you have any suggestions when it comes to more like summery cardigans, I would love to know, or if you have any suggestions as to what I could do with this really thin yarn, I would love that as well. It is really thin. If you know like silk mohair, it's much thinner than that. If you know alpaca feuilleton, it's also much thinner than that. Because alpaca feuilleton is 400 meters per 50 grams, and this is 100 grams and 1200 meters, so it is thinner than a lot of other yarns, and I don't quite know what to do with them. But yeah, I think I would like to have a project where I just double or triple stranded these to make something on its own as well. Maybe camisole. I think Otherloops has a camisole that would look nice with these. I don't quite know, but then we're moving into more of a wants territory. But these are my summer knitting plans. They are quite ambitious. I don't know how I'll have the time to do all of these, but these are the projects I would love to get to this summer, and that I would love to have in my summer knitted wardrobe and just knitted wardrobe in general. And I can't say it enough how absolutely obsessed I am with all of these yarn and all of these projects. I can't get over it myself, and to have this rather ugly cardboard box filled with all of these amazing projects, it just fills me with inspiration, and my hands are itching to cast all of these projects on. So I am absolutely in love with the projects I've curated and the yarn for this summer. It's going to be an amazing summer in terms of knitting. And then I also have quite a lot of wants, and I have not written down all of my wants because we would be here until next month, but I have written down the ones that are like at the top of my list and that I think about like almost every single day. And first on that list is the twist loop top by Otherloops. I absolutely love this top. This is like the top version of the sweater, the twist loop sweater, which is a sweater I absolutely love, and I really hope to be able to make either the sweater or the top this year because they are so lovely and I love Otherloops patterns. Unfortunately, I've only been able to make one of her sweaters, but I absolutely love the look of it. I love how she writes her patterns, the techniques she uses. It's absolutely brilliant, so I really hope to be able to knit more from her this year, and the twist loop top is definitely up there. I just don't know exactly what yarn to use because it is a very structured top, so I would want it to be a quite light color so that all the details really are visible enough, but I just don't really know. It might be good in white, but I don't know if I have enough white yarn to do that. So that's I just can't make up my mind when it comes to colors or really the yarn brand, yarn anything. So that's why it's a want and not a plan, because I can't make up my mind. Another want is the T #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. That and the Blouse #1 I have been wanting equally as much for about the same amount of time, but whereas I have found yarn for the Blouse #1 ×2 actually, I have not found yarn for the T #1 that I am 100% happy with and that I can like be settled with, that I've found the right yarn for it. So I just have to wait and see for a bit longer, I think, about the T #1. But I really like the look of that and the big sleeves on the t-shirt of it and how oversized it is. I think that would be really nice for summer, because really like tight sitting knitted pieces can be a bit too warm in summer, and oversized is usually better when it comes to summer knits. Another t-shirt I have on my list of wants is the Moonset tee by Ozetta, and this is partly because Ozetta is a designer I have never knit from before, and I have a goal of trying out new designers. And again, as I said, it is an oversized tee, which I think is great for summers, and there's just something about like the pretty simplistic design that I really like. I love the neckline of it. When I was scrolling through Ravelry just looking for projects, this really caught my eye. I also was recommended it from one of you in the comments, so this has been recommended to me. It caught my eye when just scrolling, so I think this is going to also be a great project, but I have no idea what type of yarn I would use for it, so therefore it can't be part of my plans, but it is absolutely something I want to knit. And if I during the summer, all of these wants could turn into plans if I during the next couple of months all of a sudden find yarn for it in my stash, because I am trying to not buy yarn, even though I failed a bit on that yarn festival. I am trying to keep myself to no buy, so I have to find the yarn in my stash. But if I do that, all of these projects could be upgraded from wants to plans. But so far the Moonset tee is also just a want. And then another camisole. I have a lot of camisoles I want, and I also want the camisole #9 by My Favorite Things, not 9, #7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I really like the design and how the knits and purls make the design. I also think this is knit in broken rib, and broken rib is my favorite structure to do. I really love doing broken rib. It's so much fun. So that's part of the reason why I want to do the camisole #7. I've also seen someone turn the camisole #7 into a dress, and for me, if I were to do the camisole #7, I would probably want to do that, because I have quite a few camisoles, both planned and that I've already made. So if I were to make even another one of My Favorite Things Knitwear's camisoles, I would love to turn it into a dress, and I think the camisole #7 is a really great pattern to turn into a dress. And I also really like the straps. Some of her earlier camisoles I don't really like the straps because they're too thin and like flimsy, but with the camisole #7 I really like the straps of that as well, so I think it could be a really nice dress. And I'm picturing something like really light pink, like baby pink maybe, and I don't think I have any baby pink in my stash. I have more like darker pinks or lilacs right now, but the camisole #7 in some sort of really light, it could be like baby blue as well. I haven't totally made my mind up about the color or yarn or anything, but I think I would want it to be a dress that hits like right above the knee, I think. Don't know how that would work out with what size you would have to choose, either if you would have to choose like the width of your hips, or if you would still go by the width of your bust. don't know, but that's definitely something I would love to make and that I think would look really nice in summer as well, but that's not planned out well enough for me to call it a plan. And the last thing on my want list is a cardigan. It's by Star Crossed Knits, and I love Star Crossed Knits as well. I have not been able to try out any of her patterns yet, but I love the way she designs. Her designs are really original and they look so good, so I have a lot of, not all of her patterns on my I want to knit it list, but this time it is her cardigan, and the cardigan has a really difficult to pronounce name, but it's Dukes. I don't think I'm going to chance trying to pronounce it, but I'm going to write it on the screen, and of course have a picture of it. I found this cardigan when I was looking for cardigans for summer, and I was looking for a fingering weight cardigan without mohair, and this is fingering plus mohair, knit on 4mm needles I think, but I love the look of it, and you could button the whole thing up or you can do just the bow in the middle, and with the bow in the middle I think it is such a good cardigan for summer. I just really vibe with the look of it, and as I said, I don't live in a place that's super warm, and cardigans are really popular here to throw on as it gets towards the evening, because in the evening it's downright cold. So I think a cardigan like that with like the bow element making it quite summery and the rest of the cardigan just being warm for the cold summer evenings, I think that could be a really good cardigan. I have not checked in my stash yet to see if I have yarn for it, because I quite recently figured out that that's something I would like for a summer cardigan, but I have quite a lot of different yarn in my stash. I don't know how much mohair I have, but it could also be made with only a DK weight yarn of something, so I have to look through my big stash and see what I can come up with. But I think that cardigan in, I don't know, white maybe would be good for summer, or something like that. That would be a good summer cardigan I think, but I am really undecided again, so that's why it's a want, and that's the only cardigan I could really find that really resonated with me. I found one that I am too unsure of even to put it on the want list, but those are some of my wants, a lot of my plans, and just in general what I think when it cut off and about when I plan my summer knits. And that's my must-have summer knits and the plans I'm really excited about this summer. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe got a bit of inspiration when it comes to what summer knits you want to knit this year. I would love to hear what you're planning to knit this summer if you know, and if you want to share your plans with me, maybe we could inspire each other. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and remember to hit that bell so you'll be reminded every time I post. Bye!